Good evening, everyone. Here is Bruce Newman from Bruce Newman Academy. I'm very glad to inaugurate our new format, the Bruce Newman's Open Doors. This show is open to any good soul. The principle of this podcast is the following. The guest has choice to receive a free coaching session. He has a choice to be humble and receive, or the choice to be generous and offer his knowledge or experiences. But tonight we do have a very special guest, so the following would be unusual, and we may run through a random conversation. I hope it will be quite interesting. Our guest, his name, Mr. Dennis Duval. He used to be a criminal. He's completely illiterate and he barely knows how to read and write. And yet, he did have what is called in quantum physics a breach through his consciousness. A traumatic event of awakening did surprisingly strike him, and since then he do have a direct access, which is called by some the Akasha, the Universal Library. Since then, he is completely able to debate and discuss about any kind of topic: mathematics, mechanical physics, quantum physics, mystic, esotericism. Mr. Duval, good evening.
How you doing, Bruce?
You wanted to speak about the solar eclipse that did occur today. Which were your feelings about that, if I may ask?
Well, as this is a topic that I feel that the media has been pumping so much fear and bias and trying to polarize the common man. For me, looking at it for what it is, it's an alignment. So you have these celestial bodies that have energy potentials that come into us that we're able to access. And I feel, through this time, we were just able to access a little bit more of alignment of potential than what we are normally are able to gain access to. For me, myself, I just went into it with a good intent. And, as I told you earlier, I gave blood and I did a couple positive, some meditations and stuff, and, gave my gratitude. And, I tried to counter, mentally transmutate the fear into something positive for me. And it was a success. A success.
Would you like to speak and share to the audience your mystical experience, this breach? What did happen exactly?
For sure. So I feel like I've always had a little bit of a gift. I've always been a lucid dreamer ever since my father died. He came to visit me in my dreams, and I knew that I was dreaming, and I would have a conversation with you, just like him, like I'm having with you right now. Um, and it kind of led me to the possibility. And I guess that once the door of possibilities opens up, you start seeing potentials. And for me, the potentials of the esoteric and the occult kind of open up at that point, because when you realize that everything's not physical, it opens up so many doors. And for me, after my father died, more and more doors started opening. So honestly, for me, I was a drug user, a lot of psychedelics, and I started using DMT. And for me, after using DMT on a regular basis, it stopped working. And after it stopped working for about a month, every time that I would use the substance, I would get these particulates that would dump out of my sinuses, and then I would spit them out, and it looked like sand, coarse, like almost like a crushed up Tums, like calcium bicarbonate. Um, and that happened for about a month, and then after the month of that happening, it just stopped. I would get downloads of information I never understood before, just intuitive knowing. So I kind of theorized that I decalcified my pineal gland, the hard way, instead of the natural way of doing meditation and doing healthy eating practices and stuff like that. I kind of had a crash course, and so after that happened, it's led me down many interesting pathways. I've always been an earnest seeker in truth. I've always studied different religions and stuff like that. I've been a moral person. But after my pineal gland opened up, and it caused the breach, as you say, it just opened my eyes to so many things that I was never familiar with before. And with my sphere of potential or possibilities expanded, I've been able to make a lot of connections, like you said, through science and through spirituality, and to understanding the nature of our reality.
You are currently running a podcast on Facebook.
Correct.
And you were speaking quite passionately about this phenomenon of the vortex during the last show. Would you like to develop your personal, how could we say that, your personal interpretation of the vortex, the energetic vortex?
Sure. So there's in nature, the thing that best described the nature of reality for me. I came to the image. I was meditating on the shape of the universe, and I didn't like that the people that were posturized that the universe is three-dimensional, because it would also have to be contained in something that was three-dimensional. So it would be a box and a bigger box and a bigger box, and so on and so forth. And during the meditation, I saw what people describe as a torus, or an electromagnetic field. You have the center point of stillness, and you have positive, negative, which would be the vortex of the turret. But it's the nature of reality, it's the nature of everything. And I've come to find out that the torus, not only the nature of the torus, but the shape itself, goes into a lot of esoteric, with the yin yang being one of them, the Star of David being another representation, the I Ching, the 64 tetrahedron grid. They're all representative of the same thing. In the Kabbalah, they refer to it as Ein Sof, which is God unmanifest. Before God has even chosen to be, the feminine sea of possibilities comes from the field. Everything in nature gives off the same field. It's electromagnetism. You have a positive polarity and a negative polarity. That's the charge or the current of spirit. And that's where matter manifests from the field. You have all these interacting fields, which are toroidal in nature. And even if you look at the pyramids, understanding geometry, that's what the pyramid represents, is a vortex. You have a point of apex, and it goes down, and it brings higher frequency into lower frequency, and is representative of a toroidal field as well, or the vortex. And I realized that after reading and studying so many different spiritual practices, that a lot of things that they describe is the toroidal field. I've studied a lot of Hermetic philosophy as well, and the 7 Hermetic principles apply perfectly to the nature of the torus, which is the nature of God or the nature of reality in my experience.
You do consider yourself, Sir Duval, as a manifester?
Yes, that is my human design is a manifester as well, and it's just something I've always resonated with, being the magician.
So how you do perceive this phenomenon, such as many people in the audience are very interested by manifestation. The topic is quite popular.
Mhm.
They all want to get somehow a recipe, how to manifest, how to attract abundance, how to attract wealth, how to attract love.
Well, in my mind, the best way to attract anything is gratitude. And for the powers of say manifestation, you have to understand more of the nature of reality. And the way that I understand the world and the universe to work is that we have this one mind. We have the universal all, the mind that we all share. So this is a projection of a collective psyche that is projected outwardly. So manifestation would be a reinforcement of thought or will. Um, and for me, that's the same thing at the power of a ritual. So to, you know, how do you manifest? You think about something, and then you go deeper. You add a word, you add a sigil, you add a picture, you add a color, a taste, a feel, a sound to your thought, and that helps to reinforce or to bring things to you in your field or vortex, um, which manifests or to reinforce your will. To my mind of how nature works, you have this field of potential, and any time that you reinforce a thought or want with any of these things, it makes your manifestations even stronger. But I do caution people to be wary of what they think they may need, and just try to fill your heart with gratitude. And usually, it's going to be replaced with what you need, more so than what you think that you may need.
Would you say that you could stop manifestation, or is it a phenomenon which once is on couldn't be slowed down?
It's a good question. I feel like it's almost an automated product. It's a feedback of self. It's almost like a cymatic. You have this vibratory state. So you have this energy potentials in your sphere of vibratory sense. I don't think it's something that can be stopped. I think it's as natural as breathing. You breathe in, you breathe out. That is a form of manifestation of want or need. And whether you verbalize your manifestations or wants or need, you can think it, and that gives off a feedback into the universe, which cymatically vibratory brings that experience towards you. I feel that's the illusion of time that we feel is the looking through the vortex or the turret, and bringing particles or experience towards you. So I don't think it can something that can necessarily be turned off per se, unless you can turn your mind off, which, I guess if you're good at meditation, it's something you could possibly do during that state. But ultimately, when you come back to your normal thought wave pattern, it's going to return.
Would you say that it's possible to manifest wealth when you're a demon or a devil?
I believe that you could contain what most people consider wealth. You can get gold, you can get material wealth, but I don't think you can get spiritual wealth coming from that place. I truly believe that the only way to get the real gold or the real spiritual wealth is by being balanced. It's not going from one side of the polarity to the other. It's the middle path for me that makes the most sense to alchemize and to do the most greater work, as you do it from the middle. Because anytime you polarize yourself, as you say, as a demon or a negative service to self entity, you polarize yourself to the good. So it's almost the idea of what is good, it creates what is bad. So you can gain things for self from that place, but it's not going to be true wealth.
This bridge did lead you to some awareness of the energetic phenomenons. You started to consider and perceive space on a multidimensional level. And you start to understand that the energies are running through different layers through space. What about time?
So to me, time is related to breath. That's what's the interconnectedness, or the multi-dimensional thing. You have this thing that's connected to everything. So your breath is what connects you to the all. Time in relation to space is the experience of the space. It's definitely made me look at things a lot differently since I had the breach, in understanding it's all just a projection of the psyche, Bruce. And it's once you realize that the universe or the world around you is more so a projection of your subconscious, whether it be your fears or just the things that's the unknown. To me, that's the space that we're working is our own mind. And our experience of our own mind is what we consider time, which functions through breath, oscillations between heartbeats.
You told me the last time we had some conversation. I was at this time at the Vatican. Do you remember?
Mm-hmm.
And the heaters were completely depleted. It was a torture.
Yeah.
You did mention the fact that you get aware of time as an complex phenomenon, such as time as a multi-temporal manifestation. And you explain the fact that you, if I remember well, and you would correct me, that you used to speak to yourself a lot, meaning to your future self and to your past self as well.
Yes.
Was I correct?
Yeah. So I truly believe that there is only now, ultimately, and you have past experiences and you have potential future experiences. But I feel like people tend to victimize themselves when they could empower themselves rather by changing the way that they can perceive an experience. And that's almost a form of time travel. Is you can change the past in the now by how you perceive something. So you can have it. Let's use an example of somebody who has a childhood trauma of abuse. They can let that experience embody them, and they can take it to the negative polarity and be the victim. And they can grow to reflect that same experience. Or you can go to the past and you can use it to polarize you in the opposite direction. So it's a form of changing the future, or changing the past in the now. You just have to empower yourself by the way you choose to look at things, and people don't realize how their perspectives and is such a powerful thing. And they need to empower themselves and have the choice to make it a positive experience, because life's only 10% what happens to you, 90% of how you react to it. Don't play the victim and empower yourself. It's a better way to do it.
Did your future self deliver you some messages?
Definitely. And I don't really want to know if it's my future self per se. But I feel like the subconscious mind communicates through me often through synchronicities, through symbolisms. I feel like almost I get like a feedback of my subconscious through whether it be songs or interactions with other people. And I feel like that is a part of me communicating through my subconscious is communicating through me, through my interactions in the world. I feel like once you understand the not looking at the thing or the effects, looking at the cause and looking at the root of things, you can see this pattern recognition. And once you understand more, you see, once you're able to see more patterns, you have more potentials.
So no clear message from the future then.
Basically, the thing that was communicated to me was that everything is okay, perfect, and whole at all times. Even though we might not see it to be that way, we may not have that experience. We might have a feeling of lack, or we might have a feeling of need. Generally, in the now, it is all perfect and whole. Everybody's anxiety either comes from a past experience or something that hasn't happened yet. So, in my experience, is most fear is based by not being in the now.
Therefore, we could go to the conclusion that your future self never warned you about possible Third World War coming.
Now, this is something that I have, when you start looking at things from both sides of polarity, and I try to see everything from both sides of the field, there's a lot of potential for things. I myself try not to empower those things. It's like an egregore, you're giving energy to a potential that I don't necessarily wish to experience. But I understand that all experiences there's no good, there's no bad experiences. So whatever is going to be, I'm going to make the best of it, and not necessarily any warning, but I see the potential for possible events like that happening. Yes.
You did, Sir Duval, mention during our conversation that your former wife was a reptilian.
Correct.
Could you say which is her grade in her reptilian community, and what is her task among humans?
So it was, for me, I was with my ex, as you said. She's a narcissist. I'm an empath, so I got stuck in this pattern. It's almost like this trauma bond, and I almost feel I can't say what her role or what her function is, but for me, it was to let me see what my potential was, and it was to snap me out of to where I was, because it's a type of discernment almost. I feel like that it teaches when you have the type of thing with the reptilian or the lower nature of people. There's a few things that babies are naturally scared of as human beings. Reptiles and spiders are one of them, because we have this ancestral memories of these interactions with these things. So I feel they manifest as a reptile. And I started seeing the eyes, seeing the slit, seeing the eyelid, taking pictures of it, videotaping it. And it's something I don't even think that she was fully aware of. And everything has a role. And for me, the role that it played was to see that I was pouring my cup into an empty vessel that wasn't worth receiving it. Being an empath, they play on, you wanting to heal people, you wanting to help people, but, people often want to heal other people outwardly instead of doing the work within. It takes accountability away from self. And I feel that's what the role of the reptilian or the lower nature is to see that you can rise. It shows you your potential, and it helps you with your discernment.
So we would agree then that you would consider that saying that your former wife was a reptilian is in some sort of metaphor, and she was somehow unhealthily connected to her reptilian brain and on some regressive dynamic.
Yes, definitely.
Throughout a life path.
Yeah. And, as I've grown in consciousness, I've started to look at things differently. And I don't necessarily, normally I would see people that would be bad people or hurtful people or reptilian and stuff. And you try to say they're bad people. And now I don't look at it like that, because I stopped looking at the branches. I started looking at the root, and it's all just this childhood trauma. People will have these issues. It goes back to the root of this, a coping mechanism. They fractured their psyche as a protection. And it sucks because generally that's the only thing that they factor it to, because they need to love. That's the only thing they didn't have. And then they, through this behavior, they've stopped them from ever really receiving it. So it's kind of a counterproductive.
I wouldn't hide, Dennis, that I'm clearly disappointed by your answer. I was expecting some dazzling revelation in order to push the audience on YouTube. You know that the last episode of the other podcast that we're running, the Asencast, just launched on a quite slow way. So I was expecting for a boost. You're not my savior.
Well, I can't be anybody's savior, and neither can you. You know, all you can do is plant seeds for people. The lips of wisdom are closed except to the ears of understanding. And we have to be able to speak the same language to be able to understand each other. Some people don't speak that language because they're not at the same state as we are. That's why it's good to take everybody with enter everything with love, is because, you know, I'm not here to save anybody. I'll go ahead and tell you that. I'm here just to be the best me that I can be, and to hopefully plant enough seeds for enough people to find their way, because everybody's on their path and both paths lead to the same place. I feel like in your hearts, you know that as well. And just how long do people have to hurt themselves before they get to where they're going is the question. And I just hope everybody, you know, makes the best choices for themselves, and, you know, don't punish themselves as much as they generally do.
I wouldn't hide my position about the existence of alien, meaning that I'm not against the idea. Scientifically speaking, their existence is most likely a possibility. Their presence on Earth could be as well. To be sincerely honest, I don't give a damn about their existence or not, as far as I'm just interested by, let's say, the spiritual level of beings. And I won't necessarily believe that some extraterrestrial would be superiors than the primates that we are, spiritually speaking. In this way, I'm not that much excited in general in my studies to dig in this direction. Still, I'm expecting from you some spice. Like, do you believe in aliens? And if yes, what's your opinion about their presence on Earth?
So it's nothing that I can confirm, but logically speaking, if we just talk about mathematical potentials, infinity breaks down everything. So if space itself is infinite, then mathematically, yes, there is. Do I know that they interact? I would say so. I'm big on the ancient alien theory, and it's kind of it's weird because I feel like the future is the past, because I believe time is cyclical. So these aliens are potentials that are in our timeline. So we have a timeline that exists that where a future aspect of is the Greys, or it is the Andromedans, or all these different alien races. And in the future / past, they were able to master different technologies, and some of those technologies might be able to interdimensionally travel. After studying a lot of higher dimensional geometries, you understand that the fourth dimensional cube is just a box that contains other boxes infinitely. They're all just a different vibration. So they have these potentials for these aliens, or it's almost like an egregore, or a thought potential that exists that's interacting with itself. They're going back and interacting with us to try to fix something, ultimately, I believe. And they have different expressions, reptilian being of the lower nature. And you have like some, like the Palladians, that they feel are of the higher nature. Do I believe they exist? Yes. Do I necessarily believe that they're physical? Maybe not. I feel like there's some in some ways that's how we've got a lot of our technological advancements over the years. Yeah, I believe that the aliens do exist to an extent, and I think that Earth is just a center point for energies to manifest and to cohabitate. So we have all these different potentials that are manifesting here on Earth, and aliens, I believe, could be one of those. Yes.
Your answer sounds quite reasonable to me.
I'm a logical person. I try to balance my heart and my mind.
You're quite rational, and you're developing that through the lens of quantum physics. Many quantum physicists are developing the exact same theories. Why not?
I mean, I feel like there's a lot of things that can be done right now that the elites or the people in power them, because I feel like right now they have the technology to create matter out of light. What a time crystal is. A time crystal is just something that a piece of matter that didn't exist in this time space originally. So if we have the potential to create matter out of light, you can create an atomic blueprint basically, and basically a replicator from Star Trek. You should be able to do that. I believe they have that potential right now. Transhumanism, I feel, is on the agenda. You know, that's ultimately where they want to go. I've had a different couple interactions or experiences through meditative states that kind of explain that this is what we exist in. I believe we're kind of in a technology waiting to be born. I don't believe this is absolute reality, because absolute reality doesn't shift or change, and this is a kind of a process to get you ready for that in my heart.
So just speaking about this thing, as far as a human will elevate spiritually, elevate his vibration and the consciousness, the vibrational dynamic of the consciousness will come to be more subtle. It will attract some foreign egregores. Sometimes it would be low vibrating egregores, and sometimes minerals consciousness, which can't elevate themselves naturally, and would need some superior form of organism to parasite. They would use them as leverage in order to elevate, and there would be clandestine passengers. And such as, that's interesting, such as, for instance, Toph, because you sent me a picture about it the last time, which is such an old egregore, which is quite interesting about Toph, which is, we couldn't say it's a bad or good egregore. It's like, yeah. It has originally been used. It's a cluster of energy of consciousness, mineral consciousness. It's a cluster of energy which have been built artificially originally by the Hyperboreans. You have to understand that originally Hyperboreans are 40,000 years old. We can go long on the description of this old civilization. But what is interesting is that we did evolve since the Roman Empire in 2,000 years, from antiquity to industrial revolution, and on a rational way from farmers. We did develop and did access to the modern technology. It didn't happen this way exactly with the Hyperboreans. In a matter of fact, the Hyperborean civilization is based on shamanism. And interestingly, it has been a mix between shamanism and technology. And they done somehow a quantum leap from hunter-gatherers to an advanced technological civilization. and they skipped the step of industrialization, and they did build artificially this egregore Thoth in order to boost the civilization. We could say somehow that this egregore has been the medically empowered, scientifically empowered. So the technology of the Hyperboreans was super high, and they were using sound waves as weapons and so forth. And they did have access to some technology that we're just discovering today, and mostly in theory.
Etheric, okay.
Theoretically.
Okay.
Sorry for my broken English.
Oh, you're good.
And they were mastering it in an advanced way. And meanwhile, they were mastering the atom and via atomic fusion. They could exert some nuclear damages, but they never reached the state of fission of the atom, because it wasn't the use of the crystals, the use of the sound waves was already so advanced. They were, and I wouldn't go too far on this topic, because in some point it may go to something that I wouldn't like to discuss in public. Okay. But there were no need about that.
Yeah. It seems like if you were able to master sound and resonance, that's pretty much all the energy potential that you could need. So
this topic I wanted to avoid. I don't want to open the door of energies and so on.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, you got me.
Triggering, I got you.
Well, of course, they probably everybody is free to make his own research, and they a lot to discover.
Yeah. See, for
you
me,
wanted to speak about. Oh, sorry, tell me.
Oh, so for me, Thoth was the Hermetic teachings were a good way to me conceptualize the nature of reality. It was a way for me to have like a foundation for me to see broader perspectives. So it was.
What I wanted to say about Thoth, yeah, and this is more for you, Dennis, personally, is that you do understand that Hyperboreans were balancing like a high degree of technology, advanced civilization, and shamanism. They were building all these pyramids in different parts of the earth, but they're on some very particular points, as far as like every point as acupuncture is determined.
Meridians, ley lines.
Yeah, but determined as well to be somehow a specific chakra. Mm-hmm. For instance, all these monuments in England, Stone Age, and so on, are related to the fact that England is the heart chakra of the earth, and so on. Like Egypt, the sex chakra, the water.
Yeah.
So they're all aligned, but not only in order to be connected to each other, but in order to amplify the global vibration of the Earth consciousness, as far as like there would be balance in every point of the Earth as each time a different chakra. But as you know, like the golden numbers, the Fibonacci sequence and so on comes from originally from the Hyperboreans, but these elements have been kept through the ages by some civilizations, such as the Egyptians. But any longer, it was used by the Greeks and then the Romans during the Antiquity. But interestingly, this egregore Thoth continued to be cultivated. And at the end, he has been empowered, but on an unhealthy way. For unhealthy purposes. A mineral egregore as a frequency wouldn't judge what is good or bad. But the following generation did use it on some point and ultimately in some dark purposes. So I would be personally very cautious about this egregore. Not because of what it is or used to be, but what it became. And which kind of influence it could provide, especially nowadays. I wouldn't go further on this topic because it's delicate. But as far as we're on a podcast, I'm expressing some of my personal opinions, and as far as I don't go too far, I may imagine that I can express it publicly. Let's hope for the best.
Yeah. I feel like it's Thoth, and the whole idea was more of a stepping stone. I kind of take what resonates with me and leaves, because there's good and bad in everything. There's like you said, there's different potentials, and I kind of take the meat of different teachings and put it together with which I can conceptualize the best for my understanding, my surroundings. And, it's, I don't put all my eggs in one basket. I have a broad knowledge base, and where I am now is attributed to the broad base of more than one teaching. And it's definitely not just Thoth. That was just a kind of stepping stone, hermetic principles to conceptualize my reality. I'd leave it at that.
Where your researches are leading you now, if I may ask? What makes you curious at the moment?
So I'm all into psychology now. I've been studying a lot of the psyche archetypes, because I understand the nature of the mind, and that's what everything is, all the expression of the mind and how you interact with it. So I've been reading a lot of Carl Jung. I'm reading The Man and the Symbols right now, which has been a good book so far. I plan on getting into the Red Book next, some more of his personal experiences, kind of seeing how his mind played, and very interested and curious about how his mind was working.
What is interesting with Carl Jung is that he did dare at his time, and that was quite courageous from him to approach shamanism. And we're speaking here at a time where psychoanalysis were relied to science, medicines, Sigmund Freud, and materialism. And he was going completely out of the box.
Yeah.
Still, through time, I may say that his approach was maybe from even if he was a pioneer and definitely passionate, his approach is still on the surface. Of shamanism was still on the surface, but already did dare to make these links between shamanism and psychoanalysis, which is brilliant, of course. I have a full respect for Carl Jung. As far as he was a psychologist and not necessarily materialistic, but still, it was for him completely experimental.
Yeah. We could say the same thing about it with everybody. And I feel like that's the greatest work that you can do is self-analysis. I think that's one thing he did well was analyze the self. And psychology is just the rabbit hole that I'm down this week. And I feel like archetypes and everything. I feel like he did a great work with archetypes and being able to archetypes go into the zodiac and the celestial energies and potentials, which in themselves are almost egregores until you realize that you embody all of them. You're not just one archetype; you are all archetypes. You just have to. It's what you resonate with.
You know what did what did happen to Carl Jung, and he did change completely his destiny. I mean, don't get me wrong. Already when he was working and supposed to be the dolphin of Sigmund Freud, he was already completely fascinated by the phenomenon of synchronicity, which was absolutely out of sense from the Sigmund Freud's point of view. But one afternoon on the train, and he was on some trip in United Kingdom, Carl Jung was on the same wagon as James Joyce, the novelist. You probably know him.
Mm.
And James Joyce has a crisis facing Carl Jung, and he get mad at him and he spit on his face, literally, physically. This spit a big bubble on his face, saying, "You psychologist, psychoanalyst, you are a fraud. You're an hoax. You never invented anything. All was already here in literature since Fyodor Dostoevsky and Honoré de Balzac. We did put all the bases and all the columns of human psychology. You are just pumping our work."
Mm-hmm.
And P7 has been somehow an epiphany for Jung, because he wasn't bruised. He wasn't. He was just shocked on the way that he felt, my goodness, he's bloody right. And I have to find some new ways, new roads, new perspective to psychoanalysis, because you were turning around and we're just repeating something which is already existing.
Yeah.
Being conscious mind, like all the work of Fyodor Dostoevsky, is about that. If you see the idiot from Fyodor Dostoevsky, all the characters are driven by their unconscious mind, and they doing, excuse my French, shit all the time, and they even don't know why they're acting like that, why they're acting in such way, because they already know that they're acting badly.
Subconscious mind.
Open the door. Yeah, please.
So the subconscious mind is a very powerful thing, and a lot of people, I feel, that are the unawakened or who haven't individualized themselves, that's the place where they run from, is the subconscious. And if you don't individuate yourself and your understanding and be part of be a sun, don't be a moon, because moons are just reflections. A lot of the unconscious mind is just a reflection of cultural programming, through media and things like that. And I feel like a lot of people are just running on that program, and those are the idiots. So they say that are just doing the shit, and they don't even get it. They don't see it.
You know, like what I'm doing during my coachings, concerning it's like, I would use personally psychoanalysis as not as a tool. I'm not a psychologist, and I'm not even a therapist. But I would use it as a language. You know how to speak German, you know how to speak Spanish. Okay, it's a language. There's some codes. So we can communicate through those codes, through this language. Oftenly ask to the students or the patient, clients, I don't know how to call them.
Yeah.
You would need to be, in order to work with me, you need to be educated and have this basis. You would need to, I've been studying already psychoanalysis, hypnosis, and so on, in order that we could work properly. But my point is not that. My point is to say that, and it's maybe slightly experimental, I don't know. But I would do something which is called like classically the shadow work.
Yeah, definitely.
And I can do that from with people which are because I get many people approaching me which are escaped from the psychiatric hospital.
Yeah,
and it's a bit tough. I'm not sure I can work with them. Maybe I do some attempts, but very delicately because it's dangerous here. But this shadow work would be practiced through the tools of shamanism.
it's an integration per se, right?
Yes, reconnecting and re-anchoring through the elements and so on. But the interesting fact, and that's the point I want to go through, is that the results are sometimes astonishing, such as in 5 weeks, we're doing the job which could be done through psychoanalysis in 5 years. Pretty much. I'm not bragging.
No.
And of course, still, I know there would be some limitation and it may be dangerous. Like in general, like spirituality is a dangerous activity.
What do you feel is your spiritual, like if you have a, what do you resonate with most? Are you more of a Buddhist, or are you where is your train of thought? Where do you feel like your root is?
Dennis, I'm an expert in Advaita Vedanta. Mostly, I would say. But from this point, I open the spectrum to Greek philosophy, modern philosophy, quantum physics. But I wouldn't hide that I'm using the Akasha and the Universal Library as you're doing, you know.
Was this something you were always able to access, or was it something that came with discipline or time?
I mean, I've been working on some special disciplines, and this is private. I wouldn't develop it publicly, but I've been working on some spiritual discipline that I learned in Himalaya, more or less, which are pretty much secrets since now 25 years. Concerning the breach, I don't know how to, because when you're working on those things, you do have what is called mystical experiences. So we can call it breaches, but it doesn't happen accidentally. Somehow you're preparing it. And still, these are experiences, because as far as your people are so astonished when they have some mystical experiences, like, oh, I saw some things incredible and so on. These are just the experiences of the ego. These are the experiences of your subtle body. And all the work is to go beyond this subtle body. Further, the subtle body, there's another body up above, which is called the body of silence.
That would be considered the observer, correct?
It's a little bit more tricky than that, actually.
Yeah.
The witness is an object of the mental. In the mystical discipline and the mystical path, one of a step, and still it's one step, is to access to the witness of a witness. Observing yourself witnessing.
So we'll say it's the superconscious. Would that be a relative comparative term?
While we're speaking about spirituality, we're just juggling with concepts, and we're just saying rubbishes all the time. Always saying has no sense. And still, we need these concepts in order to direct ourselves in some directions. So the words are needed. But I would agree with this term superconscious. Why not? It seems to me it would be legit. I personally would receive it. Maybe some others not. I don't know. But
I'm just trying to conceptualize what you're saying as the silent body, in a comparative way to another term that I've
beware! The silent body is just a step. It's not the superconscious.
Okay.
The silent body is somehow the frontier between your individual state and your transcendental state.
Bridge.
Absolutely, yes. It's often called a bridge.
Okay.
And this frontier is commonly considered as somehow hypothetical. And still, this body of silence is considered to have a various state of deepness. I'm going to give you a shiny examples. The Buddhist monks in Himalaya and in some other parts. But I'm speaking about those parts of Buddhism. We could speak about Buddhism in Japan and Soto Zen as well, but I'm referring about this part at the moment. They would consider each other's through this designation, like, oh, I like very much this monk. I do quite appreciate the quality of his silence. Insinuating that some other monk is installed in his own body of silence, but the quality of his silence is lower.
Like an ambiance. It's like when you go into the room and you feel the ambiance, the quality of the vibe.
What I was saying previously in the we were recording this afternoon a session for the Ascent Cast, and I was developing the concept that, and those are just concepts. That's why, like, we're just like making noise. Spirituality is all about something which is beyond silence. So we're just making noise. But still, I guess it's legit as far as it could be motivating for some to feel this will to access to this silence. So why not speaking about and debating, even if it's completely sterile? But the idea that I was developing is that, and it's a concept, that the silence by itself is still a state. And this state has to be the outcome. We should reach some state which would belong beyond silence. Silence exists only in the way that it could be compared to the noise. Without noise, how would you describe silence? I mean, in a world without noise, how could you conceptualize silence?
So on the other side of duality, almost is what you're saying. And what I'm getting from it is, you have the dual nature, but what is outside of the embodiment of all nature is what you're saying is a bridge to outside of duality, almost.
Oh no! Traditionally, in the mystical teachings, the body of silence leads to the universal body. Universal consciousness. The Indians, they call it Brahma. It's the corpse of the universe. The universe has its own consciousness. Like, you know the classic story. I'm not going to tell you this one. We are some drops of...
we're not the ocean in the drop. We're the ocean, or we're not the drop in the ocean. We're the ocean.
But my point is that this universal consciousness has a beginning, has an end. It is born, it will die. And stupendously, this universe is afraid to die. Therefore, we could consider that the universe by itself, it's a tremendously vast ego. Of course, already, by becoming the ocean instead of being this infinitesimal drop, we would become way more subtle. But you were speaking about Buddhism. According to Gautama, the original and historical Buddha, this universal consciousness is still a step. The great deal of Gautama was to escape reincarnation, find a way that the consciousness wouldn't reconnect to another body-mind organism by any chance. So he was pointing on something which was uncommon at his time, some stateless state. What's beyond the universe? What's beyond space and time? What is this matter? What is death for real? How can I die for good eternally and therefore becoming eternal?
I struggle with that concept a lot, to be able, because I hear people all the time, saying, to escape the matrix, I need to escape the reincarnation. I'm tired of coming back. And, it's almost like you have to run into the fire to be able to do that. And that's going to the center. The center is the stillness. And that's the same thing for electromagnetism, the plane of cause. It's hard in a continuum or in a time matrix to escape cause, because it's a loop. The beginning is the end. The end is the beginning. It's what's really the cause. If it is a circle, where's the initial cause? Where's the initial sin? And so I think about that quite often.
Yeah, that's the idea. Eternity could exist only through non-existence, and it would be necessarily located out of space and time.
So when you say that, to me, how I conceptualize it is the wheel of time, the wheel of karma, how would you escape motion? You would go to the center. There would be no time, or experience time itself would be experienced differently in the center because you would have less causalities. It would be a still point. So when you're saying that, I'm envisioning getting to the center of things.
You can visualize it, and the center is still a location in space. In a matter of fact, as far as you're escaping the realm of manifestation, your mental, your imagination, your subtle body can't reach it, can't conceptualize it because it's out of concept. It would be necessarily and fundamentally unreachable, as far as it would be fundamentally and metaphysically paradoxical.
To define it would be to defile it. It would be
the best way that the mental could conceptualize it would be by using paradoxes in order to create a breach in this way to perceive manifestation, whatever it would be, rationally or emotionally. Therefore, we could express it in the way that it could be expressed, such as full and empty on the same time. What could be full and empty on the same time? Even if you go through quantum physics and you play the game of Schrödinger cat, sorry. It's not full and empty on the same time. It's like it would be two location on the same time, or the non-manifested, by definition, is not thinking, is not doing.
It's a flow.
It's not a being even, it's non-being, non-existence. And still, it's pure action as far as it's all the actions in potential.
Sounds like trust, like trusting the self. Is not too much right brain, too much left brain. It is almost a center point of trust and expression, the being, not being. But like for geometry, how they try to visualize things that are outside of conceptualizing, like how do you visualize or represent a fourth dimensional shape? Like they project it down to the dimension below it. So a tesseract, a cube projected into 2 dimensions would be a square, or be 6 squares. A tesseract projected down into the dimension below, the 3rd dimension, would be it'd be like a cross. 3-dimensional cubes stacked on each other. It would look like a cube cross. So I mean, there's ways I feel that you could kind of conceptualize things that are outside of the realm of knowing. You have to project it into a way to understand its nature, like understanding the tesseract and what the tesseract is into the 3D.
Fox could be developed on an infinite way of complexity, such as forms, such as sounds. One further level would be to escape the concepts and escape what is manifested. There's some scientific concepts that I pretty appreciate, which are some such as negative velocity. All the scientists are wondering what dark matter is about. They have no clue. Like dark matter is not absorbing the light, doesn't emitting any light. There's no interactions at all with the photons. And still, it does exert an influence on the universe, and its weight is something like 52% of the mass of the universe. Bloody hell, what is it? Some quantum physicists did emit the hypothesis that that's not much than a negative mass. And this negative mass is expressing a phenomenon of negative energy, dark energy.
Yeah, dark
this
matter.
Is completely controversial.
Yeah.
Allegedly not proved, but it has been proved scientifically, as a matter of fact. But what I like is this concept through this scientific consideration is the concept of negative velocity. Negative velocity would be, in a matter of fact, pure action, in the way that this dynamic is completely motionless and would gather all the actions in the same space-time, potentially. This is just poetry, I agree. But still, like, this concept worth to be developed, why not?
See, my understanding of what dark energy or dark matter would be is that they can't explain all the extra mass that they feel that exists. There are the other dimensions that you just can't perceive. So that's what you perceive as dark matter and that you believe is empty space isn't really empty space. It's only your perception of it, because there's only one particle or one atom that's just moving so infinitely fast that it's perceived to be in multiple points in space-time. But it also goes down to like the tesseract, how one cube contains multiple dimensions. One space contains all spaces. So they're having trouble being able to measure something that they can't perceive, even though we know that it's there through geometry.
Interestingly, emptiness doesn't exist in the universe, and it couldn't even be created artificially. And some other scientists would go eventually one step further, pretending that the theory of black holes is an hoax. I don't have any personal opinion about this topic, but I got interested by those theories. Albert Einstein, by himself, never believed in the black holes, ever. The black holes would be, upon the opinion of some scientists, some neutron stars, which are
black
collapsing,
collapsing
on themselves and swinging in what is called the twin universe. Considering that at the moment of a Big Bang, a universe is born, but in two directions, like a double cone. One developing a positive time, and one other developing a negative time, where time would go backwards.
Yeah, it's Taurus. I'm visually seeing it as you're saying, and what you're describing perfectly is toroidal energy, electromagnetism.
Yes, why not? Because the principle of vortex is a fundamental principle of the expansion and acceleration of the universe. And the idea is that fundamentally and by principle, because in a matter of fact, no one knows officially why the universe is accelerating on an exponential way.
I have an idea. Well, anytime you leave from source, so even if you think of the shape of a vortex, you have a pyramidal shape. So it starts from the apex or the tip, and it goes from higher frequency to lower frequency. So with lower frequency, you have more width, you have a lower spectrum, so it's expanding out into itself. But eventually, it switches polarity. So you have high frequency positive, which expels from the Big Bang out into space. Eventually, it turns into a lower frequency, and then it comes back into itself. That's the nature of the toroidal field, how it feeds back into itself. I've come to kind of think that what black holes are really stars that are so massive and have so much mass that not even light escapes it. So you have these super dense points of mass that have basically that look like black holes or black spots because there's no light escaping these things. So you have basically a tear in space-time from these densities. And I also feel like that these things are intelligences myself. The central black hole or dark star is just another cosmic awareness or points for light to accumulate, which is what is light. Light is information. So this is a way to gather information from a larger perspective.
That's not out of sense. According to some quantum physicists, the universe is has necessarily to be submit to a phenomenon of exponential acceleration because of the negative mass, which is a part of its components. Recently, we just discovered, and it's quite interesting because we're even not sure, about this, like black holes, wormholes. We're sure about nothing. And by myself, I wouldn't deny the possibility of the existence of black holes, but I wouldn't dare to validate it neither.
Just sounds like a gate to me, which is just an entrance to a bridge, to the white hole, black hole. These are all just gates, on-off oscillations in a system. I ultimately believe that what we consider the universe is a crystal. We are conscious light in this repeating crystal lattice. So that's what everything vibrates. That's why everything has polarity. That's why everything has its draws, because are you familiar with piezoelectricity? The electric lighters, when you click them, they spark. It's because there's a piece of quartz crystal inside of it. Anytime you stretch the crystal, it goes asymmetrical and it releases the light or energy that's stuck in it, and it comes off as an electrical charge. So I kind of feel that there is a infinite grid of what you would call the multi, where everything exists in space and time. So every point in time, it also exists in space. But these are all part of the repeating crystal lattice. So you have light that's stuck within this repeating pattern. It's interesting when you look into crystallography and how crystals form. It's the form of a Star of David. It's fractalized Star of David pattern, which actually traps light. So it traps light and it causes this crystal to oscillate, and it causes it to vibrate, which is creating energy, which also creates a field. So you have a crystal that's vibrating with light, creating a field or a projection. And that's what we perceive as the universe or outward, when really it's not outward, it's a projection of the crystal itself.
We could debate for several episodes, and this not debate because we're on the same tune, so more discuss.
For sure. I have an ENTP personality type, so my personality type is the debater. That's how
I got no problem to be a pain on the ass of people when I don't agree with them, but you do understand. I hope that the audience would be glad to see that I wasn't bragging on my introduction. We agree that you never done any you never get any PhD or degrees or anything like that in a university in quantum physics in Austria.
I dropped out in the 7th grade, Bruce. I dropped out in the 7th grade. I dropped out at 16 in the 7th grade.
The way that I introduced you was intentionally colorful. I hope it wasn't unrespectful.
Oh no, not at all. If anything, I find that my roots are a bridge for other people who may have similar backgrounds and feel like they have a limited potential, because I'm proof of the fact that if you hunger for knowledge and you don't limit yourself to cultural programming, and you follow what interests you, your potential is limitless. Because like you said, I didn't make the best choices growing up. I come from a broken home, an abusive father, drug use, and like I said, I dropped out in the 7th grade. I've always been a reader. I've always been curious, and I don't find it disrespectful at all. If anything, I find it to be a bridge for other people who might be in similar situations and might want to rise above it.
You're grasping and grinding a lot of last degree knowledge, and you're at the stage on the level of the experimental quantum physicist in your own studies. So I'm gonna be a pain on the ass.
I need it.
No. How does it work with all those concepts, informations that you're somehow forwarding as a medium? Would you agree that you're the living proof that consciousness is collective?
Yes.
And consciousness is as well transcendental. All the information are printed on a larger scale, and you just have to, like on the self-service, you just go and you serve yourself and you get all the information you need in order to understand and comprehend any kind of phenomenon.
For sure.
As tricky as it could be. But then I want to be a pervert and a pain on the ass. How does it work when you just sit down and do meditation? Can you succeed to cut off the flow of thoughts?
See, it's almost, for me, when I get into that state, and I fall in and out of what I call the higher mind, often. But when I'm in that state, all I have to do is form the question to get the answer. And it's when I form the question, it's like I already knew the answer, but I had to postulate the question to be able to receive it. So, definitely pondering. I ponder things all the time. I like to know how things work, and I'm in my head all the time. So I'm not a disciplined meditative person. I don't constantly meditate. I don't spend an hour a day meditating, but I'm always thinking, and I'm always postulating. And to doing that, that's the bridge. To get the answer, you have to have the question. You're not going to get one without the other. So the question is the bridge to the answer.
I'm speaking about that because I do consider that our duty on Earth is to rise the vibration of our consciousness. My guess is that what we're supposed to do. Let's say as a humble philosopher and as an author. So my conclusion has been that there's two ways to reach this state. One could be somehow to wait for this moment that the bubble of knowledge bursts. And my guess it's what did happen to you as far as this knowledge was maybe emotional somehow. But there's another action which could be done, and this is a discipline, which is about work on the action of forgiving. How do I forget all I know? And by forgiving, I would access a different frequency. Something completely different.
I feel
How would it make you feel to experience this state? Do you think it would be painful?
I would believe so. I've been going through this thing where I try not to judge. And I think that's been another big tool for me is not judging anything to be. I almost feel like words themselves, although they are tools, I feel like they're the cause of misinformation. They're the cause of you're locking things in quantiphysically. If you write a word or a term and you define it, you're limiting it with these terms. If I never they never coined the term or defined a tree as being a tree, I would still recognize it. I would still know what it was by its form without having to have things. So judging it to be good or plentiful, would it be a different experience? I would say so. What kind of experience? I'm not really ready to say, but it's something that intrigues me just because I feel like I have a grasp on so much that things that I don't have a grasp on, that's what I gravitate to.
So Duval, I just felt that this session was not less than passionating, and I would like officially, with great pleasure and honor, invite you for a next episode, because I'm pretty sure that the audience would love it and would love your energy and dynamic as much as I do.
I would enjoy this. Is what I like to do with my free time, anyways. I'm a seeker, and I'm extroverted, intuitive, so I get most of my intuition from interactions with other people because I genuinely view everybody as myself. And kind of that's been the stepping stone. I think spiritually that's done the most for me is realizing that I am you and you are me. That when I started living that and I started really thinking in that way with emotional intelligence, it opened up so many doors of my personal life and potentials into being able to see things for what they really are as a projection of the psyche collectively.
I would like to remind to our audience that Mr. Sir Duval is participating to a podcast on Facebook. We will drop a link on the comment box. And I'm reminding to the audience that I do personally provide personal assistance, and I don't know how to call it, coachings. Unfortunately, there's many candidates and few are elected. I'm sorry for that. The terms of acceptation are quite strict. Very pleasured to have been and share this podcast with Mr. Duval. And don't forget, trust yourself, go next level.